matching essay so that our model works. We still can have probably some elements of humor are going to work its way into it, but ultimately want to make sure that we got suspense going on as well. Now, big thing for us is making sure that not only do you have the writing sheet in front of you, but you want to have the back of the prompt that has the restate, answer, cite, explain, because this is going to tell us what kind of sentences we need to have when it comes to writing this response. I gave you a line sheet. Again, that line sheet, here's the thing, is that's going to kind of set up the model for how all the other ones are going to go. I want you to write it as opposed to type it, because when we do these normally, it's going to be written, because that's the way it has to end up being on the Keystone. So you want to make sure yours is going to be written in the format in the same way that it would be set up on any kind of Keystone exam. I'll make font here a little bit larger and make sure we got our spacing ready to go. Not yet, Max. All right, what do we got to do with our first sentence? We're going to restate the prompt. So our prompt is explain how Dahl's use of situational dramatic irony contributes to the tone of Lamb to the Slaughter. How can we put that into a statement? Instead of start off with explain, I'm going to start off with Dahl's use of, and I want to make sure I put down both because I'm responsible for having both situational and dramatic irony. So you're literally writing this word for word. Contribute to the, I don't want to put tone because I want to make sure I'm answering the question. So what kind of tone am I dealing with? I'm gonna go with suspenseful for this one. Dark humor would certainly be an option, okay? But for this one, so that we're all doing the same thing, I'm gonna go suspenseful. So is Dahl's use of both situational, not situation, situational and dramatic irony contributes to the suspenseful tone of the Lamb to the Slaughter. I have quotation marks going around the story because it's a short story. If we were doing Oedipus Rex, where it was a full-blown novel or play, I'd have it in italics. What kind of sentence is this? It's simple. Now, and Zach, I know you said compound. I don't know if because you saw the word and that it made you go compound. I'm simply saying that what he's using is both situational and dramatic, but I'm not using and to kind of link together two independent clauses like a fanboys. So Dahl's use of both situational and dramatic irony contribute to the suspenseful tone of the Lamb to the Slaughter. All right? And actually I would go contributes because I'm saying his use of it. Even though there's two things that are getting used, they contributes to the suspenseful tone of Lamb to the Slaughter. Did I restate it? Yes. And I also did something else. I answered the question because I've identified what that tone is that I'm going with something that is suspenseful. All right, now when I take a look at how my sheet is set up, what I need to have next is now I need to make sure that I cite an example from the text. Of our different types of irony that we have up here, which ones do we think best are going to work for it being a suspenseful tone? Well, I need to have both. So there's going to definitely be a situational. There's definitely going to be some that are going to be dramatic. Of these up here, or ones that we haven't listed, which one kind of helped create some suspense? Would be one. Okay, so the fact that she murders her husband, we're not expecting it. What is she going to do now? What's going to happen after she's murdered? There's going to be some suspense that's going to take place. So that one would certainly be an option that I could take a look at. What else could I look at that's going to have suspense for it? Marissa? Police eating the evidence. The nice thing with going with that is not only does it contribute to suspense, but now I have my situational and I have my dramatic out of the way. So when it comes to that third example, I can use whichever one I want because I'll have both situational and dramatic. Do you have another one?
When he's getting angry at her at the beginning.
When Patrick's getting angry with her? Okay, we could certainly use that because that's going to be suspenseful. Do we have irony that we can use with it?
It just got really dark.
That's because we're going over a darkly comedic story. The fact I think there is something that you probably could mention. What's the first surprise that happens in the story? Before the murder,
He dumps her.
what'd you say? The divorce. You don't expect him to be leaving her, which is going to create some suspense as to what's going to happen. And it's all because of that divorce that she does what? Murders her husband. And then it's all because of that murdering her husband that she has to get rid of the weapon. What happens? The police end up eating it. So, yeah, I think there's definitely some suspense that happens with that dialogue early on. There's some surprise because she's pregnant. You wouldn't expect that the husband's going to leave, that would certainly be something that we could take a look at. So, going with the whole fact that he's going to divorce her, what would be the order of examples that we would want to put this into? Like, what would be the first example that we would want to cover? The divorce. What's the second one? The murder. And then what's the third one? The police eating the evidence. Why did we go in that order? It covers it all, and it fits the order of the plot, of the order that the events go in. All right? So, for my first sentence, I need to come up with something that's going to cite an example from the text. So, looking at the story, and you probably want to take a look at, I would say, page 381. When does it come clear to us as the reader that he's going to leave her? When do we go, yep, divorce is taking place?
When he said,
Josh, you want to
down.
close that door real quick?
He said sit down. He said just for a minute, sit down.
Okay.
I've got something to tell you. It's going to be a bit of a shock to you, I'm afraid. If not a good the outside the thing. I hope you won't blame me too much.
So that first column on basically like page 381 is when you're taking a look at?
And top of the second.
And top of the second column, okay. Looking in that area, is there a specific line that we think we can use that would definitely get it across? I think Max has us in the right area. Austin, did you have one, or? I'm sorry?
I was gonna say it.
Okay.
In the second column of the second group.
So there it is?
Like whenever he's saying like he'll give her money and like that time of time.
Okay. So because the money is being given at that point and you're taking looked after, that's where you're kind of going, this is definitely it. After telling her to sit down, I've got something to tell you. Marissa, did you have anything else? You're going to go with the same thing?
I was gonna go with watching him with the kind of days for as he went further and further away from her to each word.
Okay. Which is going to be in that paragraph up above. So we could pretty much kind of go with any of these examples, and it's most likely going to work for us. Rarely is it going to be one specific example that you have to use. What would be a good way to kind of start the sentence? Since it's going to be my first example. I don't want to use first just because I don't like numbers. I'm an English teacher. Mrs. Kane deals with numbers.
What she teach, man.
Yeah. What could I use instead of first? What'd you use for your first body paragraph essay with Oedipus Rex? You could do to start off. Initially was the one that most folks use. Doesn't matter. To begin, that would be fine. At the what part of the story? In the beginning of the story, anything along those lines would work. So I'm just going to start writing. In the beginning of the story, what's the husband's name? Patrick. Max, what was the main little phrase that you mentioned that he says multiple times? What does he say to her? 2 words.
Sit down.
Okay. So Patrick tells Mary to, quote unquote, sit down. What's a word that I could put in between Patrick and tells? Since he says it multiple times. So Patrick repeatedly tells Mary to sit down. Because why? He has has something important to tell her, and I want to try to get in some detail that got mentioned. Whether it be giving you the money that you're looked after, or the idea that he's kind of slipping further and further
Because
away.
He another lady.
We technically don't know that part.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of the story, Patrick repeatedly tells Mary to sit down because he has some
Devastating.
devastating news to tell Mary. What have I done? Typed, I wrote. I have some evidence. I actually want to add some more evidence because I'm kind of incorporating both what Max was saying and everyone else. But what kind of sentence have I written?
Compound.
I've written a complex sentence because I'm linking together two types here, an independent and a dependent. What type of sentence do I need to write for this very first one? I need to write a complex sentence. So I have a complex sentence. Now I want to add some more evidence. I don't want to explain it quite yet because I want to add some more evidence. So I'm actually going to write an extra sentence. Because I'm writing an extra sentence, I can throw in whatever kind of type that I want. All right, so this one's going to be a little bit different. We'll go with this news. He reassures her, bless you, that, quote, Austin, what'd you want to put?
I was gonna say, and I know it's a kind of a bad time that you're telling me, but there's hope. I was gonna say, of course, I'll give you money and see your look after, but there is needed really good advice.
All right, so that I'm going give you money and see that you're, looked after. What?
Let's say see that you're looking at.
I was going to ask, what looks a little, because I'm writing this as it shows up in the story, give you money and see you're looked after. What would be a better way to phrase it? So you said add the word that, and you want that after your in between looked? Like right here?
No.
Or I'm sorry, before your.
See that.
Anyone know what you do when you change a quote?
You're now basically plagiarizing because it's not.
No, I'm okay. I'm not worried about that because I have it in quotation marks. But if I want to change a quote, especially for grammatical reasons so that it makes sense, all I do is I put brackets around it. So that's just Tyler indicating I've added the word that to a quote. Dahl didn't use it, but it's there. If I were also saying this, I probably wouldn't use the word you, but I would use the word he reassures her that he will give her money and see that she's looked after. Oops. There we go. That's technically the appropriate way to do the quotation because I'm telling you where I'm getting it from the text, but now I'm adding these little brackets to let you know I've kind of changed it, which would make sense for the overall wording of it. Whether I go with this quote here that Austin and Marissa were talking about, or I go with the one that Gia was mentioning, either way they're going to get in quotation marks. I don't have to quote only dialogue. I can quote whatever I want. All right? Now, the part that gets to be trickiest when it comes to writing any of these responses is going to be in the next two sentences. I have to explain my example. I pretty much have to explain two things now about this example. What's one of the things that I have to explain? I have to explain why it's suspenseful or why it contributes to the suspense. And I also need to explain why it is situational or dramatic. Zach, which one's this? This is situational. All right, why is it situational? Pardon? That doesn't work.
Because we're also finding out the news too. At the same time she is.
And what do we know about how Mary feels about her husband?
She loves him.
She deeply loves him, so we would expect that Patrick would not want to divorce her or that their relationship wouldn't be at this. So this example proves ironic. What could I do next?
Ironic.
This example proves ironic. Don't worry about simple, compound, complex.
This example proves ironic sentences or statements.
You could go, this example proves to be ironic.
Yeah.
Since it's situational, it's going to be ironic to the reader. This example proves to be ironic to the reader. This is a simple sentence. What kind of sentence did I want? I wanted to have a simple sentence. Now I need to write a compound sentence. Now, I still haven't explained why it's ironic. Now, Aaliyah was talking about it's ironic because it was a surprise to us that her husband would choose to leave her. So I can go, this example proves to be ironic to the reader. The reader has what? No idea that or whatever I started right there, that Patrick would want to divorce Mary. And we're going to pick up with that tomorrow because we need to explain how is this going to be suspenseful. So, prompt, line paper, keep it in notebook. We're going to be taking a look at this tomorrow so that we can continue to build up how this is ultimately going to look. Okay, I'll grab it. Tyler, big thing would be today's Tuesday. Thursday is when we're doing our vocab quiz. So it's a day earlier than normal. So just make sure you're ready for that.